What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Here's today's project. So I just picked this up. It's a Evinrude 8 horsepower, 2-stroke. It's a 1998 short shaft model. As you can see, it's pretty rough around the edges. I just picked this up for $100. Should be a fun little project. I've never worked on Evinrudes before, so yeah, it should be a challenge, and I'll show you what's wrong with it so far. There's a few things wrong with this motor. Usually when you're buying a motor for $100, there's usually something wrong with it. So the first thing is the pull starter is actually seized up. I have fixed this on some other motors. Usually it's when the motor's tilted on its side, the wrong side. And so those cylinders in there usually have water or oil in it, and then they seize up over time. So usually just pulling the spark plugs out fixes that issue. So I'll do that. The shifter is stuck in neutral. I won't shift forward or reverse. Another issue is usually motors that have sat a while, these clamps tend to seize up. So this one's seized up. I can't turn it, so I have a blowtorch and some WD-40. That should hopefully do the trick. And usually when you're buying cheap motors, they're missing the fuel connector, so I'll have to address all these issues. Here's a quick peek under the hood. Honestly, it doesn't look too bad. A little dirty, but everything's there. The first thing I'm going to do is I got my 13/16 socket wrench, and I'm going to take off these spark plugs and try to get this motor unseized. There was water in the cylinder. I'm going to use some of this stuff. This is a PB blaster, so this should break down the rust if there is any built up in the cylinder. So I'm just gonna let that sit for a while, and then I'll try pulling the motor over. Quick update, guys. So it's the next day. I was able to get these gears moved a bit, so it was stuck in forward or reverse, not sure which one, but with a lot of force I was able to move this into neutral, so it's in neutral gear right now, so I can move the flywheel, which was seized, but I just got it unseized. To do that, I took off the pull starter right here. There's just 3 bolts holding that onto the flywheel, and with an excessive amount of PB blaster penetrating oil, I sprayed a bunch of that into the cylinders to free up the cylinders, and with the 3/4 inch wrench here, I put that on the flywheel, and with a lot of force I was able to wiggle it back and forth to free up the seized flywheel. So now when I pull on the motor, it pulls over easily. So I love throwing starting fluid in motors, seeing if they fire it up, so let's throw a bunch into the carburetor and see what happens. I love it. So a lot of times on motors, when they've been sitting a while, these clamps get seized up. So this one was seized up, but as you can see now, it's pretty smooth now. So to do that, I found the best way is to use a propane can and then more of this PB blaster. I just want to see if this motor runs or not. So I haven't even touched the carburetor. I know it starts on starting fluid, so it's got spark. I did just change the lower unit. I'm not even sure if this is the right stuff, but I mean, I'm sure it will do the job. Picked up a fuel connector, just these cheap Outboard ones from Walmart. They're like $2 or $3, and it appears to fit good. So I got the tank hooked up, 50-to-1, 2-stroke to gas ratio. And yeah, let's pull it over and see what happens. I'm gonna choke it. Oh, helps if I connect to the spark plugs. I'm gonna choke it once. Let's choke it again. Whew. Fires up. Feels like it needs the carb clean, so let's try it again. Alright, I'm gonna clean the carburetor. Looks like there's just one single rusted bolt down in there that's holding this airbox on. To get to that, I gotta take off this pull starter. There's just 3 bolts that go around here that I've already loosened, so I want to take that off. Okay, with the pull starter off, looks like there's just these 2 flathead bolts that are holding this airbox on, so let's take that off. Okay, here's the carburetor. If you look all over, you can see there's old grease, and if you look down here, there's old deposits of old 2-stroke oil, I'm guessing. To take it off, it looks like there's only just 2 nuts that are holding it in place, one right here and then another right here, and an 11mm seems to fit those nuts. Here's the carburetor, and under here is the float bowl. There are 7 screws that hold the float bowl together. There's 5 small ones here, and the ones that are connected to the linkage are a little longer, so be careful not to mix those up. But yeah, you can see all these dark deposits and stuff. It looks like kind of like rust. I'm not sure from what, but yeah, that's not good in there, so I'll have to clean that out. Don't want that going into the carb jet. Yeah, look at all that in there. So this is probably our issue right in here. Or actually, right in here too. This looks like a jet. Gonna get into all these passages with carb cleaner. So here the carburetor is all clean. Here's the fuel pump. I checked that, cleaned that up. The diaphragm here, that seemed okay. But so what I thought was happening was the motor was misfiring, because it would run good and then like make a popping sound, like run, pop. So I was like, okay, let's change the spark plugs. So I put new spark plugs in, and then same thing was happening, would run, pop. And so I checked the spark, it had good spark, it had good compression. So really the only other issue that stuck out was these gear selectors. So initially it was stuck in this forward gear here, and then I was able to move it into neutral, but then I couldn't get it into reverse, which it can. That's only because I messed around with the lower unit and took that all off. And so I'm thinking that it wasn't misfiring, it was like stuck in like in between forward or reverse or neutral gear, one of those gears. To come find out, now that I have the lower unit apart, it was this clutch dog piece right here. Okay, with this clutch dog, this unit moves up and down to select the gears, and there's a spring in there. So this button, or whatever you want to call it, that's part of the clutch dog, was seized up. So what I did was, again, using PB penetrating blaster, sprayed a bunch of that in there because I think there was too much rust on the spring, and then I tapped it with the hammer since this wouldn't move, and I was eventually able to get this free. So now I think this is in the forward gear, like halfway in is neutral, and then all the way in is reverse. And so now hopefully this fixes our issue, and it's not jumping in between gears when the motor's running. Okay, I got the lower unit back on, put the clutch dog back in, put the pin back in the clutch dog, and it seems to be shifting gears better, so I'll show you how it's running now. So yeah, as you guys saw, the motor's running pretty good now and shifting gears like it's supposed to. So that pretty much sums up all the repairs I have planned for this motor. I'll probably touch the paint a bit on the cowling and the lower unit, make it not look so ugly, but other than that, I mean, it's running pretty good. Just wanted to give a quick disclaimer. I'm not a trained mechanic or anything like that. I really just started doing this a year ago, tinkering with outboard motors, jet skis and whatnot. So I'm still learning as I go. I kind of just like the challenge of taking something broken and learning how it works. So yeah, any feedback in the comments section is always greatly appreciated. I've gotten some good feedback so far. I do have some plans to take my boat out pretty soon. I've been kind of busy. I do want to go salmon fishing on the Sacramento River, and crab season starts in about 2 weeks, so stay tuned for those episodes coming up. And as always, thanks for the support, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.